You've heard the line, violence is never the answer. And on paper, that feels right. But in real life, it's more honest to say that violence is never the best answer. Even when it works, it usually just breeds more of itself, and it wrecks the ground that we have to live on next. Welcome to Renegade Noble. My name is Jesse, and around here we try to focus on what it means to be better and to build a life that you're proud of. Whether we're talking about public discourse, like we've done in recent episodes, or developing empathy as a skill, or something else that's just a general part of existing, this channel is dedicated to trying to be better. And with that context in mind, I struggled a bit to put together this episode. As I was reviewing outlines and partial scripts, I kept coming back to a consistent thought that I decided I wanted to share with you all in a bit of a departure from the style and tone of recent episodes. So here's the question, and I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. What do you see as the path forward for the United States? And I should note that this is within the framework of how we get from the current extremely divisive, conflict-driven landscape that we currently are in to some sort of just content state. Before I dive in too far, let me be clear about why this matters as a discussion topic. Where we end up is where the most vocal, action-driven groups steer us. And if the loudest voices keep rewarding escalation, then escalation's what we'll get. We have to decide whether we're going to find ways to get involved and work toward the version that we want to see. And that requires talking about things that we might prefer to avoid. So I hear the question, why did you open the episode talking about violence? Honestly, because I'm just not sure I see a return to a version of the United States that both reaffirms and re-embraces the ideals upon which this country was founded without it. And that's what scares me most about all of the rage and the expanding divisiveness that's constantly being stoked and being nurtured by those in positions to do so. And it's being accepted without question by so many people. There's a point where if one side embraces the use of violence to impose its will, nonviolent response just ceases to exist. And history is full of warnings. When one side normalizes force to impose its will, nonviolent participation shrinks. And it's no surprise people get scared out of the public square. Democracy stops being a conversation and it becomes a street fight. You can look at the S.A. brown shirts in the last days of the Weimar Republic. They used intimidation, broken meetings, beatings to just clear opponents off the field. And we've seen versions of that here too. During Reconstruction era, paramilitaries in the 1898 Wilmington coup, they organized violence used to suppress votes and overthrow a legally elected local government. It's not debate. All right, so enough with the doom and gloom. What now? Well, thankfully, we're seeing actions all over the country that tell us that hope's not lost. Indeed, while we can't rely on hope, we can't relinquish it either. Hope is the thing that provides strength to continue to push for a better tomorrow. I'm not here to sell you despair. I'm here to say that hope is fuel, not a strategy. The strategy starts with understanding what actually reduces harm and opens space for better conversations. Yes, there are a lot of misinformed and ignorant people. There are a lot who hold on to a version of reality shaped in a way that just doesn't reflect the facts of reality. But those are things that can be changed. There are really two major problems. The general populace is relatively uneducated, and subsequently, they're just not able to perform a basic level of what we'll call investigative inquiry. And critical thinking is really part of that problem. But similarly, the erosion of understanding the scientific method and the lack of willingness to discern opinion from fact just magnifies that problem exponentially. Now I get it. It sounds like I'm starting to rant. And I agree that it does sound like a rant. Until you remember that there's a direct parallel between that lack of education and the lack of applied critical thinking that correlates with violent behavior. And that's the crucial part of why I find this entire scenario concerning. So, what can we do? Well, let's consider some basic facts for context first. Believe it or not, nonviolence tends to work better than violence. Across the last century, large nonviolent movements were almost twice as successful as violent insurgencies at achieving their goals. And it's not romanticism, it's basic data. Our online world distorts reality and rewards outrage. Most Americans agree that social media makes things worse. Experiments show that exposure to antagonistic cross-partisan content online increases polarization, not reduces it. In person, most people are fine, but online, the worst voices get the mic. Civic skills matter. Critical thinking and basic science literacy chief among them. Analytic thinking measurably reduces susceptibility to false headlines. And short media literacy prompts improve people's ability to tell real from fake news. That helps lower the fuel for panic and retaliation. This means that education isn't just nice, it's protective. And decades of work show more education is associated with less violent crime. Now, education doesn't fix every cause, but it helps to move the needle in the right direction. And Americans agree they feel the danger rising, even if most reject violence. Major surveys track a non-trivial share who say that political violence might be justified under certain conditions. And there's a growing majority who believe that harsh rhetoric contributes to real-world harm. Quite frankly, that's our powder keg. There are some actions that you can take as a first step in helping to try to move the needle. First, lower the spark in your own circle. Don't feed the outrage machine. If you decide you have to post, try to make sure you add sources and that you have full clips, not cropped or edited versions. And if you think it's just venting, try writing it down in a journal first. Hopefully don't publish it if that's all it is, but at least consider not publishing it. When you can, move heated arguments off the public stage. Move them into private messages or a chat over coffee. You'll be shocked how fast the temperature drops. Build your own truth filters. Take 60 seconds to source check before sharing. At a minimum, date, author, and context. Do a weekly critical thinking rep. Pick one headline that you really do want to be true and then try to disprove it. This will help you get better at spotting junk. And invest where it measurably reduces actual violence. Community violence interventions that focus on deterrence and support, sort of like Oakland's ceasefire program, have been linked to big drops in shootings when implemented with fidelity. And programs like Ready Chicago show promising reductions for the highest risk groups. In short, if you want change, donate or volunteer or help your city adopt what works for the problems facing you. And keep nonviolence as your default, not the pose that you walk around with. Really, Dr. King called it pretty plainly. Hate doesn't drive out hate, only love does. Nonviolent discipline's not weakness, it's strategy. It widens participation and it denies extremists the chaos that they need. Now, it is worth noting that a preference for avoiding violence is not the same as pacifism or accepting things without pushing back. However, de-escalation is a critical skill. Great, what else? And that's a good question. What other actions can you think of as an individual that can help move the needle? What do you see as the path forward? Hey, if you found any of this to be helpful or thought-provoking, or just want to engage in the conversation, I encourage you to like the episode, subscribe, share it with others. Until next time, be kind, be clear, be accountable, be brave, be useful, be renegade noble.